Hello, and welcome to Mind Your Head, a space for people to share their stories, talk openly and honestly about their own mental health challenges, and to give some listeners some comfort in knowing you're not alone. We acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land in which we record this podcast, the Gubbi Gubbi people. We pay our respects to their elders, past, present and emerging, and extend that respect to all Indigenous peoples. We honour their enduring connection to the land, waters and culture, and recognise their invaluable contributions they make to our communities. Always was, always will be Aboriginal land. Welcome back to another episode of Mind Your Head. Joining me today is Shay Lajoie. Shay is a biomedical student, she's a business owner, she's a runner-up contestant on Survivor, a model, she teaches ballet, she teaches yoga, and she hosts retreats all around the world. Shay talks about the defining moments in her life, the biggest challenges she's faced, and the hardest lessons she's learned along the way. Shay understands firsthand the importance of mindfulness in your life and discovering ways to enhance your personal and professional well-being. Now let's get into it. Welcome to Mind Your Head, Shay. It's an absolute pleasure to have you on the podcast today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
No worries. I just want to read something out, and I hope I've got this right. You're a biomedical student, business owner, you teach yoga and ballet, social media influencer, you host retreats around the world.
Yes.
And then I've noticed if you're not doing any of them, you're surfing or at Revel.
That's pretty bang on.
Have I missed anything?
No, that's everything.
I firstly want to know, how do you, because I'm jealous, how do you maintain that level of energy, focus, and also to be so productive during your days? Because it seems like you have a lot on.
You know what, I get asked this a lot. People are like, how are you not super tired?
Yeah.
I actually think genetically I have just been gifted with a lot of energy. And in my last year of life, so I'm 33, since I turned 32, I've started to get a bit more tired.
Slowing down a little bit.
Slowing down in my old age.
I'm 33 as well.
Oh, it's coming for you. So I've really taken a step back a little. I used to do way more. Like
really?
When I lived in Bondi about 6 years ago, I used to wake up before the sun and sprint across the beach a few times to check the surf. Like I would sprint, walk, sprint, stretch, burpees, like you name it, and I was doing it on the beach.
And if the surf was good after sprinting, you'd grab your board
go grab my board, go back out, run home, smash a coffee, some oats, go to F45, like run to Coogee in the afternoons. It was dumb. It's dumb. But if I didn't do it, this is my problem. If I don't do all of that activity that my body is capable of, I can't sleep, or my brain is muddled and my thoughts are like not clear.
So you need that for a clear mind. To burn all that energy.
Yep.
Oh, right.
And to be able to sleep.
Yeah.
And function.
Is it hard finding balance in all that in terms of, I guess, relationship with friends and family and keeping all those connections going?
Friends is a funny one. I reckon that it shifted my social circles, having to always be busy doing things. And since I've moved here to Sunny Coast in the last 5 years, my social circle's gone from one where I felt like I had to keep up and go out and drink margaritas on the weekends down in Sydney to now friendships where, we call it an end of games night at 8:30 because everyone's got to go to bed to get up at 4:30 to do their activities. And everyone I've met here either is in my dance classes or I study with them at uni or CrossFit or not High Rocks, what's it called that we go to?
Revel.
Yeah, so they're all surfing buddies. So everyone that I'm friends with now, we do activities together. So it's a good way to like habit stack. So I'm seeing my friends, I'm getting vitamin D and I'm getting my exercise in. So
and that's the key that I've found too, is like if you're in a bad environment or environment you don't want to be in, like that change of environment is what you need, and be surrounded by people that are doing the exact same things that you want to do.
Yeah, and it's so easy to find on the Sunny Coast.
Is it?
Yeah, everyone here is... Well, from my perspective, everyone
here... Like doing what you want to do.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Have you experienced burnout at all?
Do you know what's so funny?
You have?
Last week. No, not like literally, but we're close to last week.
Oh, really?
Yeah, last week I had to give a conversation. What's the word for... presentation.
Conference, sort of.
It was kind of like a TED Talk style, yeah.
Was it?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
There was this Australian Pilates conference and they had 8 speakers a day and I was one of the speakers on the Saturday. This is literally like the weekend that just happened. And a month before this presentation happened, I was like, right, what am I writing on? Because these people that run the Pilates festival. One of them had been to my last Nike event and seen me speak on recovery. And it was more about like ice baths and nutrition hacks to sleeping better, all of these cool like biohacking techniques to sleep better and recover better so you can get more out of your training. And she saw me present and said, can you present at this Pilates thing? And so I looked at the email about a month ago and it was like, you're speaking on burnout. I was like, oh, it's not exactly recovery, but you know, I can find the science on it and kind of like merge my two presentations into this burnout one. And I'm sitting down after Bali. I'd been in Bali for 3 weeks. And I was like, I'm just so not motivated. And I couldn't find the motivation to write this thing. So I thought, screw it, I'll do it tomorrow. And the next day I wake up and I start going to write and draw my presentation. Nothing would come out. And then I started thinking, oh no, like I'm not passionate about science. I'm not passionate about recovery and wellness. What's wrong with me? I can't be asked to do this. And then the third day came around. I thought, I've really got to start this presentation. And so I go for a beach walk and I think I'll just listen to a TED talk on burnout and maybe that will stir some ideas. And I'm walking along from Cotton Tree to Alex and then they start listing all of the symptoms of burnout. You're not into your work, you're depersonalized, you're feeling numb, you feel like anything you contribute to your work is not doing anything. And I'm like,
oh shit, I got that.
Yeah,
that.
tick, ticking all the boxes. And then I diagnosed myself with early stage burnout.
Did you?
Well, yeah, I just wanted to treat myself like I was burnt out to see if I felt any better. So for 3 days, I didn't train much. I just went for like some casual small surfs, went for some beach walks, did a lot more meditating, ate a lot better because I realised I was just being a couch potato at night because I was so tired that I was eating takeaway and watching Netflix, all too hot to handle. Embarrassing to admit that. And
so do I.
Oh, do you? It's so cringy, but so good. And then after those 3 days of resetting and trying on all the things that this podcast said, I was like, oh, I've got a new lease on life. Is that the saying?
Yeah, that's the saying. New
lease on life. And all of a sudden this presentation built itself. I was so passionate about it and I got my jazz back.
Yeah.
So the first thing I said to the girls on Saturday, it's kind of ironic, but I just come out of burnout myself and then was able to speak from a very experienced position.
So have you had stages of your life where you've had sort of burnout, or is this your first? Was that your first experience of like, oh, I need a reset?
I think that was my first.
Yeah, wow.
Ever. And I'm the sort of person who will write my assignments on the plane as I'm flying to host a retreat in Fiji, and then I'm submitting assignments in the airport. Like I'm back to back with stuff, and it never hit me until 33. The ripe old age.
Like putting yourself under pressure. I can't do that.
I'm the opposite.
You're right. So you thrive under pressure.
Yeah. If I've got a whole day to do an assignment, I'm not doing it until 5 p.m.
And it's due at 6.
Yeah.
So you mentioned you lived in Sydney and you're doing all the runs and stuff like that. What were you like as a kid growing up? Did you always have this, I guess, drive and passion to live life to the fullest?
Oh, I look back at my childhood and I'm like, who was she? So I don't know why I just got teary. I was, my God, why did you just make me cry?
I don't know.
The most random question. So like parent-teacher interviews?
Yes.
My parents would say, Shayelle, all they say to us is, she needs to leave the library and make friends. So I used to sit in the library and sort the books out by number and letter because apparently I loved doing that. But I look back now and I know that I was so afraid to try and mingle. All I wanted to do was play all the ball games that they were playing because I had all the energy, but I socially didn't know how to connect because I was like the only brown kid. I just ostracized myself. And then when new brown kids came and they got ostracized too and picked on and people talking about them behind their backs and I would hear it, it confirmed that like I'm on the outside.
They're talking about that about me as well. So is that how you felt?
Exactly right. I put myself in that like Caucasian people were, and this is like a 7-year-old's brain going, okay, white skin means first class and then everything else is under that. And I only realised this about 2 or 3 years ago. That's probably why I just had a teary moment. Yeah. I'm only just starting to unpack that isn't supposed to be a realistic like framework in my mind, but it is. And so I never got to be sporty until, I did a lot of ballet. Yeah. I was probably doing 15 hours of ballet a week. Wow. Different types of dancing, but mostly ballet. So my energy was definitely being put out, like put to good use there. But I don't think I tapped into this crazy amounts of energy until I started surfing. Yeah. I reckon was 17.
So what was that connection to make friends? Because from my point of view, I still get a lot of social anxiety still, and it's not as potent as it is now because I lean into it more rather than trying to like deflect it or pretend it like it's not there anymore. But one of the things that really helped me to make friends is like a team sport. So when I started playing rugby, and I found that so I'm actually not too bad at this. Suddenly, like, you know, I was in the popular group or I made friends and stuff like that. How did you sort of break that connection and
I think dancing.
Dancing was it?
Yeah, there was a lot of dances, and then all of a sudden I went to dancing with a girl that was in my grade in year 8, and we were like, let's be best friends. And so, you know, catching the train with that person and then dance at Stedfords on the weekend. So that dance definitely became my bubble of friends. And then I changed schools in year 11, and that was so different. So the first school I was at was a semi-private school, and it was like little tiny cliques, like hardcore scary cliques. I was scared of all of them.
Like Mean Girls.
Like Mean Girls, and exactly right. And every group was like maybe 4 or 5 girls, and sometimes they were grouped together and whatever.
Can't wear that.
Oh, yeah. On Wednesdays we were working. It was like that.
Was it? Yeah.
And then I moved to this school where the whole grade was just split in half. There was like the academic ones and the sporty ones. And so I fit into the sporty ones. And it was so comforting to not have to be afraid of like that group or those girls and what they would say. Everyone was just really nice.
Felt accepted and included and stuff.
Yeah. And probably half of that big group were dancers. And so I just got to fit in.
Yeah, perfect.
And then my worries started going away.
So what, you mentioned surfing. What is it about surfing?
Well, it was actually one day in year 11 or 12, I just didn't want to go to English. I was really bad at English.
Were you good at school academically, were you?
Some subjects.
Okay.
Like you could split the classes in half, and some I was really good at and some I was really bad at.
Okay.
I was like French, math.
You're good at?
Dance, yeah.
Oh, right. Okay.
Well, my dad's from Mauritius, so
of course.
I spoke a little bit of French, but one day we just went, screw going to class, let's go for a swim. And I had just gotten my driver's license, my P's. And so a bunch of girls stacked into my Mitsubishi Lancer and we drove down to the beach. And on the way, my friend said, stop in at my house. My dad's got some boogie boards in the garage. And so we opened this garage and it was like, you know, like,
light shining in.
Like golden light.
Heaven. Yeah.
And there was like 20 surfboards, kayaks, like everything you can think of. So we just grabbed surfboards, and I did not have roof racks, but we just go wax down on my Mitsubishi Lancer, used some ropes, and then the girls hopped in the car and held the ropes inside the door. And then we drove down to Cronulla Beach and we paddled out, stood up on some waves, and then the next day we said, tomorrow, do you want to do this at sunrise? So we're like, let's check what time sunrise is. We all met down the beach, same thing, wax on my roof of my car, on the boards, and then we paddled out. And a couple months later, this dude comes up to me. He's like, hey, I'm a local photographer. Is this you? And they got me into his van. So creepy. I know, I got into his van. And in the van, he has this big computer screen. And he's like, is that you and your friends? And it was our second day ever surfing. And we're running to the beach. And because we were dancers, we didn't have surf suits or anything. It was the middle of winter. We were wearing leotards and shorts.
No way.
It was all we had in our car. And so we're like in these bright leotards and we're running into this beautiful sunrise. There's a sailing boat and a perfect barrel and a person in the barrel. And that was all that was in this photo. It was stunning.
Once in a lifetime shot.
Yeah. And
do
he was
have
like,
it?
I've actually got it.
Oh, you do? Oh,
yeah,
cool.
Yeah, I'll find it for you.
Yeah,
it's on my
we'll
Facebook.
put it on here.
Okay. And he's like, I sell these photos online. Like he might sell like 10 a week, like 10 different ones, and you can pick, I love that one. I'll put it in my kitchen. And he's like, this has made me so much money. He'd at that point sold dozens of this photo. Yeah, so we all got a printout copy of it.
That's amazing.
I don't know where mine is. Yeah.
So after school, what was your sort of game plan? Did you decide to do university? Did you know what you wanted to do at school? Or were you like me that just absolutely we're just winging it?
Hell no, I was winging it. My mum was like, you've got to go to uni because my mum lost her mum when she was 18, so she never got the chance to go to uni because she had to look after 7 other siblings.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, big family.
Big family.
And my dad never got the chance either because just like low socioeconomic status, moving from Mauritius. He just like started working in banks. And so my brother went to uni and he was a few years older, so it was like, it's your turn to go to uni. So I just picked whatever stood out to me that was in my category, which was quite low in terms of, I think I got like 60, if that's even a number, out of like 100.
Oh, your score, yeah.
My score, yeah. And then I got into high school education and I went, I have to do it. So I signed up. I loved dancing, so for 3 years I just went just for the dancing side of it, which was like a few hours each morning, which fulfilled my happiness.
Fill your cup up.
Filled my cup. And then in the third year they were like, right, you've got to do prac. And it just sunk in. I was like, prac, which means teach kids. I don't want to teach kids. So I quit.
It's like, shit, I don't want to do this.
I didn't. Yeah, well, actually I deferred. And
Yeah.
then I went traveling for the first time ever at 21.
Cool. Where'd you go?
First I went to Hawaii.
Amazing.
Because I had a wedding, but then I tacked on a few other of the islands and just surfed there. It was pretty crazy. And then went to Indo for a few months, bit of Philippines, chased some waves, and then back to Hawaii where a guy, I'm not even joking, I don't know why I just smiled, it's the most fucked up thing ever. A guy, I saw a fin in the water and I told my partner at the time, I was like, I just saw the biggest fin, and he's like, no, it's just Hawaii, it's in your head. We get out of the water. We make our way to this pizza shop, and the guy at the pizza shop's bawling his eyes out. And we're like, fuck, what's happened? Sorry, I keep swearing.
Hey,
sorry.
we can swear.
Okay, good. And he's like, a dude just got like bit in half by a tiger shark, like a big tiger shark. And he goes, don't worry, it wasn't where you were. It's not the holiday spot, because he could hear our accents.
Yeah.
He's like, it's this secret beach called Secrets. And I had a friend who knew this secret spot and told us how to get there. And we were like, oh my God. He looked at me like he'd seen a ghost. He's like, I'm so sorry. I'll always believe you. But yeah.
So I've got a shark story. So I used to go to Strapoke Island for years as a kid. Like,
don't turn me off, Stratty.
So you know the famous shark attack at Stratty?
Oh,
it
yeah.
was years ago. It was proper years ago where a girl got taken.
You were there.
I was swimming at that bay. We were swimming. It was just after Christmas. We'll come back after New Year's. Me and my brothers decided to go and have one last swim before we drive back home. We're in there for the whole entire morning. Get in our cars. Mum and Dad were packing up the tents. They would always like pack up. We would just be chilling in the ocean. Get in the cars, drive back. On the way back to here, we lived in Budrum. On the way back to Budrum, on the radio, shark attack at Strapoke Island at that bay that we were at all morning. And I was like,
isn't that
holy
wild?
shit.
Oh,
Yeah. And we'll swim, like the bay, I don't know if I can't remember what the bay's called. It's got like really, really shallow, right? And then it just drops off to like darkness. So me and my brothers used to like dare each other who could swim past the drop off point and then quickly swim back again. And that's where it happened. And I was like,
this is why you don't go off the drop off.
No, don't. Yeah, well, this is why I stay in the shallows.
Even Cotton Tree scares me if I go off the little drop off.
Same though. The current's there too, and there's bullies in there.
Yeah, there's a lot. And people swim across with babies.
They're dogs and stuff, and
Yeah,
sharkies love dogs. Anyway,
they do.
we didn't just talk about that.
No. That actually happened to me in Western Australia too. I was surfing a place called Chapman's Reef.
Yeah.
3 days in a row for my cousin's wedding.
Yeah.
Go home, fly to Byron. My driver picks me up, and it was like a modelling shoot. He's like, oh, we've got to wait for the other model. So we just stopped at this cafe, and he opens this newspaper. He goes, didn't you just say you were in Esperance? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, oh, there's a shark attack there. And it said Chapman's Reef. And I was like,
To be fair, Shay,
what?
shark attacks and WA are like
Hand in hand.
Best friends. Like,
that's true.
Like, I'm not going in that ocean. I'm not going nowhere near it.
I wouldn't go again.
So talk to me about the travelling. Did that, I guess, because of my perspective of travelling at a young age, it's sort of like I was so sheltered living here on the sunny coast. And then I guess for me, travelling was like that thing that changed my perspective and saw how people lived. And a lot of the countries I went to were like Philippines and Vietnam and Indonesia, and these people like, man, they got nothing.
Nothing.
They got nothing, and they are just like,
so
Mr.
happy.
Miss, like, come, and they're just like, someone, this kid was like, oh, come, I want to show you my pool. And I was like, your pool? How good's that? And I go to the back of his little shack, and it's like a muddy pit. A circle muddy pit, and he's diving like off bricks into it and stuff like that. And I'm like, but that's not a pool, but keep going, like
whatever makes you happy.
Yeah, whatever. And he was stoked, and
Yeah.
everyone's just so happy. Like, how did traveling sort of change your perspective around life? And
very similar, like
yeah.
watching people have nothing but be so much happier than people that have everything.
Yeah.
It definitely taught me a lot about materialism, and just also being open to cultures. Like, I think before I travelled, because I was 21, 22 when I started travelling, before that I think I was so closed-minded and thinking everything I know is right and perfect and blah.
There's first world problems.
Totally, yeah. So hyper-fixated on the way that our society lives life and ignorant to everything else. And then even meeting someone that had an accent, I'd almost be like, well, like, I can't understand you. You know that stupid like,
It's
white
not,
people perspective.
it's not like snobbiness, but it's just like, oh, why don't you speak English?
Yeah,
You know, make it easier.
and our parents' generation probably made that a bit more easy for us to lean into that instead of being more open-minded. And so when I started traveling, I feel like it made me appreciate so much people from different cultures and the way that they practice their cultures, and just cracked open my mind into accepting, and also not just accepting other things in life, but opening my perspective as to how I could step out into the world differently, or how I could interact with people on a more open plane, and not
like
and
that.
get rid of that thought of like I'm correct.
That judgmental type thought, isn't it?
Yeah.
So so after that, where did you sort of navigate towards? How did you, after traveling, where did you land? Is it a bit of a journey, is it?
It's a bit of a journey.
Is it?
Yeah. To summarize it, oh God, I met a guy and moved to Thailand to run a yoga school with said guy. Turned out he was seeing someone else and someone else and someone else. And
How old were you at the time?
I was 24.
Yeah.
And he would have been, I don't know, like 25. He
Yeah.
would have been a really
Okay.
similar age.
Yeah.
But he had done something naughty, which I didn't realise. And he was all over the news for what he had done. And
We can all assume.
yeah, yeah. And he kept telling me that he was innocent, and then comes out in the news that he'd pleaded guilty. And my parents were like, "You're moving overseas for this person who's, pleaded guilty for this thing in the news." And I was like, "It's all fine. Like, I'm so smart. I make my own decisions." Get there, and it was anything but smart. Like, I got into some really dangerous situations, deep shit with some. There was gangs, and there was
In what country? Thailand.
Thailand.
Oh, right. I'm guessing you haven't been back.
No, I did actually.
Oh, you did? Yeah.
I went back a couple of years later with a fresh boyfriend who was like my bodyguard.
Okay.
But yeah, got into some deep shit. Couldn't really tell my parents all the details about what was happening, because at the time I was like, they've just trusted their 24-year-old daughter to go to the other side of the country, the world, and just do life on her
Life's
own.
good, Mum. I
Life's
swear.
real good.
I swear life's good.
And I came home with like $6 in my bank account. It actually got so bad that I told my bosses that I was going to a certain part of Thailand, but I was going to the opposite part because I was so scared they were like coming after me.
Really?
I had done nothing wrong, but they were
You're guilty by association.
pretty much.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, they ended up in jail a few times. They ended up getting deported.
Oh,
Like,
wow.
it was bad. But I'm sure they look back laughing because they were those kind of guys that would just find that funny or cool. Anyway, so I came back to Australia and I was shell-shocked for about 3 weeks. I didn't surf. I didn't train. I didn't move. I don't think I really even ate. I just had these vivid memories of my mum bringing over a bowl of food in front of me, and I would just like slowly eat it over the whole day. Like, I just was,
Really?
I was in shock from the whole thing, because my life really came close a few times to being in a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
And then one day my mum slid a adults colouring in book in front of me, and I just was like, oh, whatever, this is fun. And then it was a forced meditation, and I just, pages after pages, my brain was filtering through everything I had just been through without realising. Like, I didn't realise I was meditating.
It's Miss Miyagi, you.
Yeah, totally.
Just
literally.
Yeah.
And then my brain was like, you should not continue the victim mentality of this whole situation. Like, you don't have to live a life that's like, I'm so affected by all the things that happened to me. You could just change the script and do something drastic. And so I realised my best friend was living in Bondi, and I was like, oh, I'm going to go live in Bondi. I don't know. I'll meet some people there. It's a good place to network. Yeah. So I went to Bondi the next day to an open house, and not open house, like, someone on Facebook was like, we have a 6th room. It's a sunroom with no windows and no doors. Who wants to live in it? I was like, I do. So I went to Bondi, and these girls were like, yeah, you can stay here. And I moved into this room. The next day, I think, or like 2 days later, I walked down past this bar on the beach, and my old manager from years ago at a different bar was at the front, and he's like, hey, I managed the bucket list. Do you want a job? And I was like, yeah, I'll have a job. So I got a job. Everything got sorted pretty quick. And then I lived in Bondi at that point, I think, for 4 or 5 years, and just trained, ran boot camps, got into retreats and things like that.
Yeah, cool.
And then moved to Canada to pursue.
Moved to Canada?
Yeah.
Whereabouts?
Vancouver.
Oh, did you? Yeah, cool.
To pursue film. I really wanted to. So my uncle, it's technically like my uncle by marriage. We just call him my uncle. He wrote and directed Wolf Creek. And so I was like,
Did he?
Yeah, Greg McLean. I was like,
Gave me nightmares for years.
Yeah. Yes, that's him. Sorry on his behalf. He was like, if you want to get into film, like all your cousins, everyone wants to do it. It seems like fun, but you have to prove first that you're willing to put in the hours. So
Film was an actress? Acting?
No, like I wanted to be, it's funny you say that. I wanted to be behind the camera. It's just like production.
Yeah.
I didn't care. I just wanted to be in the chaos of it all. I
Yeah,
loved
yeah.
how much shit
I love it
was
too.
going on,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
It suits your personality.
Yeah. I'll tell you later, but I did a bit of acting classes and stuff down in Brisbane.
Did you?
Yeah.
I feel like you'd be really good at it.
No, shit.
Awkward. So I ended up moving to Canada because I wanted to prove to my uncle and also myself that I could do the hard work that was needed to get into the film. And then it turned out half of Canada is also trying to get into film. So I was like a traffic cone for 6 months. I just stood there like this, directing traffic. And then I was doing cartwheels on set one day, and I ended up sort of trying to kind of get my way into stunts through talking to people about that. But I was a bit too old at that point. Like you probably should start as a gymnast, first when you're like a kid.
I thought you'd be perfect for that.
Well, I don't know. I think you got to be really good at sports, not just average a few.
Yeah.
And then I got into a bit of strife in Canada too. But it was like...
What do you mean? Not the same stuff. Wasn't ever a boy.
Similar. No, this wasn't ever... Well, I was working for this person who was a singer. I was his...
Do we know him?
Yeah.
Is he famous? It is, isn't he? Is it?
Semi, like from the 90s.
Oh, from the 90s, shit.
And I'll sing you the song later, I reckon.
Yeah, okay.
And I was just his yoga teacher, and I was there to basically like help him clean up his life, like a little assistant. So it was like going through his kitchen, taking out certain ingredients and replacing them with better ingredients, and teaching him how to cook and teaching him yoga and meditation.
Oh, so you were at his house?
At his house,
a lot.
living in his house. I was living.
Oh, you're living
in his house.
Oh, right.
And then he just
So
starts.
he's personal assistant / yoga teacher / sounds like mum, kind of like.
Kind of mum.
Kind of mum.
Mum role,
Yeah.
yeah. And then he flew me to the other side of the country for it was a really cool like cancer fundraiser for kids, but it was basically all these rich people doing a treasure hunt on their $1 million boats, speedboats, just really expensive, like Lollapalooza. I don't know how to explain a festival of rich people.
Smells like Jeffrey Epstein to me.
It's giving a little bit of that vibes. Yeah, way less creepy, way more above the board. But at that event, he was like, his family were calling me like names that made me feel like I was his missus.
Oh, right.
And I was like, I work for this guy. I'm
Yeah.
a bit confused. And then on the flight home, he's in business class, I'm in economy, and the flight lady, flight attendant?
Yeah,
Stewardess.
Couldn't even get your business with him. Jesus.
No, she comes up to me and she says, "Oh, this is from your husband," and it's a tray of all these snacks from business class. And I looked at her and I said, "I don't have a husband. I think you have the wrong seat." She goes, "Oh no, so and so from this one," and I was like, "Oh, okay, yeah, I guess I'll just eat the snacks,
hungry.
thanks." Yeah, and then the guy next to me goes, "Well, what's happened here?" Like, he wanted to know the story.
Yeah,
Why is he not your husband?
Yeah.
And I just told him the story. As I'm telling him the story, I'm halfway through all my snacks. Mr.
Said
Blake,
husband.
said not husband, walks up. And he's like, "Oh, how are you enjoying the snacks? Did you like what I said?" Haha, I was like, a little bit of a joke. I don't remember what happened next, but we ended up in this conversation across this poor passenger sitting here I don't know, maybe he enjoyed it. But we ended up in a fight because he's like, "My family said that you clearly love me the way you look at me." And I'm like, "Oh, I work for you.
I love life."
So confused. Yeah, I'm just a happy person. And we like kind of broke up on the plane, even though we were never dating.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, you're not together.
I know, but I had to break up with him. And then
Break the friendship.
Or let him down because he kind of thought that that trip just meant we were together, basically.
Yeah.
And then we were driving home from the airport, dead silent. Like I got the full silent treatment. And I said to him, "I'm just going to pack my stuff up tonight and I'll move out tomorrow. I'll find something." And I did. I just like packed up all my things. And in the morning he started crying and he's like, "I thought you were joking." And I was like, "This is just really strange for me."
Weird.
But before all of that stuff happened, he would once a week drive me out to Whistler, where someone had a farm of weed. But this is before weed was legalized.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, not again.
Yeah.
And working for him on this like weed farm and other things. Well, okay, I'll just finish the story. We'd go home and he's like, this is your bedroom, but don't look in that door. And there was this locked door. And then after he let me in on all of the weed business that he was doing, he unlocked the door and said, well, instead of paying rent, this can just be your rent. And I had to, this is probably why I'm a biochemist now. I had to do the chemistry basically on the water and the food for the weed plants and had to like
feed them,
take care of them.
Make sure they're all living.
I learned a lot about weed plants.
Do you ever think, I'm sure you have, do you ever
No, I don't ever think.
Do you ever think to
That's why I
yourself,
get into this
like, I was going to say, do
situations.
you ever think to yourself, like, how does this keep happening?
I thought about that after the second time it
After the
happened.
second time, it's like, what am I,
What am I not learning?
yeah, what am I not learning?
Yeah. I learned to start thinking for myself.
Yeah.
And I learned to stop. I think I was so trusting of the whole world.
Yeah.
I think in my naive sub 27-year-old person, Shayelle version of me, I thought that everyone thought like me. Like I thought we all had the same brains. We all had the same experience. So I was like, if I love everyone like they're just beautiful sunflowers and there's light emitting from everyone's buttholes, like
You see
then
the
we
best
all
in
think-
everyone.
yes, that's one way to say it. I thought everyone thought like that.
Yeah.
And then it really tainted my vision of people after these few experiences. But it also brought me down to reality and let me stop getting in these situations.
Yeah, right. Let's go into your business. What is it? What do you do?
Wow. That's a good question. I run retreats and
Yep.
teach yoga
Yep.
and teach ballet. So that all falls under my personal business. But at the moment, most of my time, aside from studying, is actually as a Nike Well collective instructor. So
Okay.
most of my stuff now is less about my business and more about
Your brand.
me. Yeah, me as a person.
Yeah.
I actually had this conversation with my manager just 3 hours ago about making sure that our branding is going in the right direction.
As in your branding.
Yeah, so how I turn up online, whether it's talking in this podcast or what I post on Instagram, as long as it's constantly coming back to who I am and who I want to be online and how I want to represent myself, then I'm going in the right direction.
Well, that's one of the things that I love about you is that you are so real, authentic, raw on social media. Like it comes across like you have so much confidence, but also it comes across that you don't care about what people may think or judge or something.
Oh, that's so nice.
And I love it. Every time you're quirky, you're funny, you're weirdly you. And in a good way,
No, I like that.
everyone's got that about them, but no one ever shows it. Everyone's too afraid. Everyone likes to fit this certain type and be this certain thing and show the same generic thing all the time. And when someone goes outside the box, and it's strange that we have to say going outside the box to be yourself.
To be normal.
To be normal. But when someone does that, it stands out so much. And that's what I love about your content and your social media. And has that come naturally for you, or has it been a bit of a challenge trying to, I guess, show your authentic self and have the confidence to do it?
It definitely started really like authentic and just relaxed, just whoever I was however I showed up for years, until maybe there was a bit of backlash around when the whole Black Lives Matter and COVID and all the big issues started really making their way into mainstream media, or like social media actually. Some people were like, oh, you're not black enough to talk about this, or you're not white enough to talk about this. Yeah. And I was like, I had a bit of like an identity crisis. Like, I know I'm in the middle, but I don't know which party am I supposed to stand up for. And then I started to be a bit quiet because I was scared of getting in trouble or saying the wrong thing. But that was only like maybe a year period when I quietened down, and then I sort of sprung back up again, being myself. But it can be really hard. Like I was vegan for like 8 years, and then the last year or two I just started eating a little bit of fish and like 1 or 2 eggs like every 2 months.
What was the change?
Nutrition sciences, because I keep up on like what
of course.
that space is doing.
Yeah.
And for me, I think everyone has different goals for why they're eating what they're eating. Some people, it's simply just pleasure and taste and family history, how they were taught to eat. And then other people, it might be for their sport or for muscle or for aesthetics. And other people like myself is to to live long and healthy years. And in that category of people, you also have, are you eating to stay away from, say, for example, colon cancer, if that runs in your family, or for my family, it's Alzheimer's and dementia.
It does. How did you? That's a weird thing to say, because it does in my side.
Oh, does it?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
I didn't mean, sorry.
Yeah, that's all right.
I'm also a psychic.
I just got checked the other day, so that's why.
Hey, well done.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, and so then if I was in your shoes, I would be reading up on the dietary patterns to steer sort of away from
Pause 1 second.
colon cancer.
What are they?
So the big risk things are like high meat intake, high sodium intake, low fiber. They're all the things for colon cancer. But we're at the age where you can start to shift that.
Okay.
Yeah, like the earlier you shift that, the better, and it takes a while.
Oh, shit.
What, are you on like carnivore or something?
No, I just love meat.
Oh.
I love it.
But I mean, that's also, if you look at just overall trends,
Yeah.
you see meat intake increase over the last few decades, and every single decade as you watch the intake increase, you also see the colon cancer increase. But then if you look at countries who are still like Indonesia or Thailand, where they don't actually have access or money to eat that much meat and they're eating rice and legumes, flatlines.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah.
We got off topic then a little bit, didn't we?
We can get back. Where were we?
I think you were talking about the confidence to be yourself on socials.
I couldn't be someone else. Like, I couldn't be fake.
Yeah.
If I tried. Even when I was on Survivor, I tried to lie a couple of times, and those bits didn't get aired because I can't lie.
What, lied to be likable, or
lied to just play the game.
Oh, play the game. Oh, that was just like Shay.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
And even socially, I tried to like be a bit more loud or be a bit more relatable, but it just comes across as so fake. So I don't have any other option just to be like goofy.
Yeah.
That's all I've got.
You mentioned before, like during that COVID time, you sort of had that identity crisis. Talk me through that period and like, how did you come to terms with who you are and love who you are? Oh. Is this deep? Is this too deep?
It's not too deep. Nothing's too deep.
Oh, okay, cool. Is your dad brown and your mum white? Yeah,
my dad's super dark.
Yep.
He's from Mauritius, and both his parents were quite dark. And my mum is just Aussie. Mm-hmm. She doesn't really know much of her dad's background because he never spoke about it.
Yep.
So, yeah, Aussie Mauritian. And I didn't know that during school I was so impressionable with being ostracized for being brown. I just thought that was normal and expected, and I just pulled up my socks and kept going to school every day and kept doing life, and was okay with just going to the library and being a loner because I just thought that's fine. Like my dad went through this, so I'll go through this.
Oh, so you found some sort of resilience and comfort in knowing that that's not comfort. I wouldn't say comfort.
But resilience for sure.
Yeah.
Yep. And I think as in those years, probably from the middle of primary school to the middle of high school, so a period of 6 years or so, you're building that resilience at the time, but you don't know that you are until you look back. And so, in my mid-20s, I would look back and think, far out, I think I did really well for someone who was having such a hard time fitting in. And every school kid's having a hard time fitting in. Everyone wants to be cool, and you're embarrassed if you have to wear ugly school shoes or you got ugly haircut. You just want to fit in. But then, fast forwarding to COVID times, I think I had just started to feel comfortable in my skin because media had started showing brown as beautiful when I was in my late 20s, and COVID hit when I was bang on 30. I was starting to feel like confident, and maybe I could even start to believe people when they told me I was beautiful or different or
what, you didn't think you were beautiful when people said it?
No, I'm still like I'm slowly starting to say thank you, but I would always be like, oh, you're just saying that because you have to. Like my mum would get so angry at me. I'd always say to her, you just say that because like that's what everyone says to their daughter. But like I know you don't have to say it. Like I know I'm not beautiful.
Even if I was an ugly mum, you still call me beautiful. Right.
And I didn't believe it until maybe late 20s, early 30s. Yeah. Starting to believe it, but then when with the whole Black Lives Matter thing, I was getting crucified by just random people online, usually from the States, saying, "Oh, you're not actually black, so you can't say that." And no, but like you know, you're not even white, so you can't say that, and all this stuff. And I just felt like, okay, well, I'm lost again. I don't
back
understand.
to square one.
Who am I? How do I fit in? Why do I have to fit in to a particular box? And even when I'm signing up for something online, a lot of like modeling agencies or acting agencies, you have to tick.
Ethnicity. What do you say?
I don't know. Sometimes there's no other box. So I have to tick like Hispanic. I'm so far from Hispanic. Like there's no box for where I fit in. And which is funny because I think I also went through the identity crisis of I'm not a vegan anymore, but people always like to be like, well, so what are you? Are you pescatarian? What are you? And I'm like, I ended up saying I think I started saying nutrivore, like I just eat for nutrients.
Yeah. Well, it's putting labels on things sort of pigeonholes you into this one sort of thing. It's just like, well, I'm not any of that.
Yeah.
You know?
And then I get scared sometimes. Like I was in Bali recently and my friend had eggs on her plate and I think I might have had fish or something like that. And I really she took this story and I wanted to repost it, but I was like, oh, I'm already imagining the messages I'm going to get. Oh, are you eating eggs now? Or are you eating fish? And like I've explained it so many times in random stories. But if someone misses that and then in their head I'm still the tree-hugging vegan, then they're like, oh my God.
Is that the thing? Let's talk about that for a second. That's because it blows my mind, the criticism, the judgment, the hate. There's that you see on social media all the time. Like you know, even doing this podcast, where I'm trying to initiate conversations and help people and that sort of thing. I've gotten hate and it's rattled me, and I'm like, oh shit! Like I never really expected anyone to just be like, you're crap, you know. And I'm like, that's someone's opinion. And when you put yourself out on social media, you open yourself up to that sort of thing. But it still blows my mind that people put the effort in. To say, you know, just to be mean.
Yeah. Keyboard warriors. And I'm just like, where's that coming from? Like, how do you deal with it? Because I used to take it to heart so much. Sometimes I still do if I'm having an off day, especially being a woman, like with certain hormones. If you're feeling down and someone even says like, ew, oh my God, it can ruin your whole week. But I've started getting a lot more empathy for those people. I've shifted a lot of the podcasts I listen to. They're more like very old school, like dead people who talk like, you know, people that have passed that were very spiritual in their day. And I just love listening to their perspectives on just really zooming out on spirituality and reminding me of small things like it. And they're really even though they might have spoken about this topic in the 70s or 80s, it's still really applicable today. Yeah. With just like non-attachment to what someone's said or to having to be perfect. And so sometimes I take it as I'm sympathetic for this person because they're probably going through a really hard time and that's why they feel the need to have outbursts.
So you find it's not a reflection on you, it's a reflection on them.
Totally, yeah. Or sometimes it's actually good criticism and I think, you're right. Like the other day I did a post. I'm not going to say the brand, but I did a post for a brand and someone that is a follower of mine, he commented on like an ingredient that was in this thing that I was promoting and he had a good point. Like he wasn't trying to hurt me, but he was kind of being like, pull your socks up sort of thing. And so sometimes it's useful if you're not able to get offended by it. But I love, one of my favorite things that in the last few years that I've grown out of is getting offended by things because I had an ex that would get offended by a lot and I didn't understand why I was getting so frustrated with him. Like I'd try to give him feedback, but every time it was like...
Defensive.
Okay. And I was like, why is this affecting me? And then when I really thought about it, I was like, oh, because we're not getting anywhere and I want to keep growing. I love growth mentality. Yeah, same. I can tell.
Yeah.
And so it's also held up a mirror to me because there were times when I was defensive, but I would hide it and I would be defensive in sneaky ways. And so it really revealed to me that that's something I had to deal with. And so I'm like, bring on the compliment, bring on the negative feedback.
Because that's also my sort of journey too, is it's like, I think I got to 30 and I don't know what happened, but I almost realized all the flaws. I could see them all. And I'm like, they're like, I am like this. And I really notice how I interact with people, even how I talk to people and how I joke around. before I say it, I'm like, how would they perceive it? And then because sometimes I could be come off in a different way, and I'm like, oh shit, maybe I do come off in it. Maybe I got to put more effort and more conscious thought in like how I'm presenting to the world. And like then I thought about like when people like come to me and say like, you know, certain things that they were, you know, offended or they didn't like about it, instead of just jumping back at them, I really like think about it, digest it, and be like, yeah, I can definitely see that, a bit more open into realizing that.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, hey, when you get to an age when you can take a step back and literally see the things that you need to work on.
Big time.
It's beautiful. Like whenever people say, oh, like I'm getting old, I'm turning 30, I'm like, aren't you lucky?
Yeah. It's
awesome.
the best.
Yeah.
It's the best.
Yeah.
But you're so old. I'm like, I've never loved life more than I have in this period of my life. And I've done so many amazing, cool things in my 20s. But this period of my life, I love waking up. I hate going to sleep. I absolutely hate going to sleep. I get excited about the next day while I'm laying in bed. I'm like, oh, just chill, man. Like tomorrow will come, just go to sleep. And I'm like, no, can't wait. I love it. Something that I experienced during this podcast when I first started it is imposter syndrome. Mm. You come across as someone who's super genuine and down to earth, and like, I guess when all these nice things come your way, do you ever feel, you know, all the, you know, opportunities and which you obviously deserved, but when it sort of ball starts rolling, you're just like, holy shit, like,
yep.
Do you ever feel like,
oh my God.
Man, like
the
I'm just Shay from Cronulla?
Yeah,
like, yeah.
Honestly, still to this day, everything I do.
Wow.
When my first retreat that I did overseas was actually for someone else. So I ran a few in Australia, and this girl reached out to me from Quebec, and she said, oh, we run these retreats in different countries and we'd like you to run one in Ecuador. And I was like, yeah, awesome, I'll jump on board, this is fun. And then on the plane over there, the doubt set in, and I was like, I might be just getting... Well, I kind of thought two things. One, I'm going to get chopped into a million pieces and sold.
In Ecuador,
yeah. Or like I'm just going to completely drop the ball, because who am I to host a retreat of 18 girls and talk to them about empowerment and teach them how to surf?
If they only knew my fucking stories.
Yeah, they only knew what was going on in my head, and how stupid I had been the last few years. And it went ahead amazingly until the last day I chipped my tooth.
Oh.
I was doing
Can I see it? Oh no, you got it fixed.
You know Dr. Phil from the gym? He hates it. Every time he looks at my teeth, he's like, oh, I can see it.
That's not too bad.
It was pretty funny when it was out of my face. Looked like Jim Carrey. But I went to do a clean, but the bar was a curl bar, and it just went like not my tooth. But then so that's in retreat world, and that's tapered off a bit. Every retreat I run, it feels much more natural and
get more confidence with
it. For sure, yeah. And you're like, well, if I've done 4 that was successful, this will be better. And then if I've done 16 that was successful, this will be better.
100%, because that's how I feel doing this. Like each season that's going on, and I'm like, I'm not a podcaster. Like, what do I know about podcasting? But then I take a step back, and it's just like, well, I like chatting to people. So let's just not think of a podcast host. I'm just having a conversation with someone. Yeah. And I always wonder, like, I wonder if this is connecting with anyone. Because, like, obviously this is sort of what I love to do. Yeah. But secondly, I would love how this affects other people. Yeah. And then I have this sort of thing when someone messages me or someone reaches out and says, hey, thank you so much for this episode, or this episode's done this for my life. It reaffirms, I'm like, oh no, like that imposter syndrome sort of going away. I'm getting more confidence doing this. And also I know that I'm on the right track doing what I'm doing when I just get those little bits of, that's all I need to, like, all I need is those little bits of messages that are just like, thanks man, like that was great. Yeah. And I'm like, sweet, on to the next, like pump for the next one. Like that's all I sort of need just to keep chugging away.
They are the sweetest people. Like those people I definitely think keep small businesses pumping along. The people that just go out of their way to send a quick message. This is how it affected me, for sure.
And they don't want a response. They don't want anything. They just want to let you know that like, hey,
they don't want anything. I love it. Yeah.
And that I try to do that with people now too, because I personally know how important and how much that can impact that person, just that little message. So I try to be that person as well now. Yes,
me too.
Oh, do you? Yeah, nice. Something that I would love to talk to you about, because again, I'm making so many assumptions about you.
They've all been correct so
have
far.
They?
Mm-hmm.
How do you manage failure? Because I feel like even the stories that you have said, the stories that you've told me, it's just like they're pretty heavy. But, you still come across like, we'll just truck on for the next day. That's what it comes across like. You how you deal with, because I struggle with failure. I really, really, when I was playing rugby and stuff, I really had a fear of failing. I just didn't try my hardest. I would always just stay in the safe zone or my comfort zone, just because I knew that I wouldn't fail. I would always just be here. I would never be here because I was afraid of just dropping down.
Interesting.
What's your relationship with fear and failure, really?
I love failure.
Oh, you do? You lean into it?
Yeah,
Oh,
because,
right.
well, I didn't used to, but I think the dancing world made me realise obviously you've got to be in it to win it. And if you wanted to win against the best, you had to be prepared to fail. And there was a lot of failure, but I loved watching the growth that happened from failure. And at the start, you don't realise that that's what you're doing. You're just a kid and you're just loving this sport, and you're like, okay, so she pointed her toes heaps, she smiled heaps, she had pink sequins, like...
Oh, so you analysing what
everything.
I didn't do, what they did. Yeah.
Even my mum did. My mum would have the I don't think
Excel
she'd care if I said
spreadsheet.
this, pretty much. She would have the printed out version of who's dancing and what their name was, and she would write notes all over, like scribbled over. And she'd read it to me later as I'm washing the stage makeup off and, holding my little bronze trophy or whatever I got.
Oh, so you competed with all the ballet, yeah.
Oh, yeah, heaps,
Oh,
yeah.
right.
Sometimes it would be like 6 competitions a year, maybe.
Wow.
Maybe more, I don't know. But I loved, at first I was just doing it because my mum was like, this is what that girl did. But then watching over the years, as taking on that information, being more present in class and understanding where I was going wrong, and then getting praised for applying the work. Like I remember in ballet, my teacher would be like, everyone come off the bar, turn around, okay, watch Shayelle, she's going to do this movement, and see how you can watch her muscles activating. And then I would get this, I guess my ego would get a bit of a kick out of it, like, oh, I'm doing it so right. But yeah, so filtering all of these moments when I was applying where I had gone wrong or where other students had gone better, applying that throughout the year, almost every minute of every day. Like I used to stand in the tuck shop line with my butt tucked under and my ankles pulled up so that I was training for ballet all the time.
My goodness.
I worked at Macca's in the drive-thru and I would stand in 5th position. I would point my toes when there was like breaks. I'd change feet every half an hour. Like I was
full committed.
Yeah, and I didn't know that was weird. I just thought everyone did that. And then like I think that was when I built this strong relationship with failure, that knowing that the more you fail, probably the better you're going to get.
One step closer to success. And it's interesting because like I think all of us as kids, we're not scared of failing as kids. All of us are like, yeah, well, when we were little kids, we're just like, yeah, we'll fail. We don't think about it. It's only until we get to like adults that we grow out of like this stage of like being happy to fail, and you become adults and you're just like, I know a lot of people are just like, study for a test. You get to school and you study for a test, and it's just like the fear of failing in a test, and then it's just like get to the real world and it's just like, I've got to have that safe job because I don't want to get fired or anything like that. It's interesting how we sort of grow out of it, but for you, it doesn't seem like you grew out of it. It's just, it stayed with you this whole time.
I do wonder if it's also like a time thing, like because I had a lot of time on my hands in my mid-20s. I dropped out of my uni degree. I was traveling a bit, sort of working in hospitality. I had more time to try a new thing and fail, like surfing, and have time to get better, where I think people that jumped into from full-time study to a full-time job and babies and marriage and all those things, they didn't have time maybe to do other hobbies and fail at them. I don't know, that's a thought. That
failing in front of people too. It's all good failing by yourself and no one watches, but as soon as someone's watching, you're just like, oh shit, like I don't want people to... Yeah, I get it all the time. I don't mind. You don't mind? Yeah. I love that.
I get a bit of a high off that.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, because it shows how real you are. I'm sitting on like a nut or something. It shows how real you are. I think if you're able to show that you're...
No, I connect with it too. As soon as I see someone fail and they're sort of just like, laugh about it, I'm like, oh, I can do it. It sort of gives you other people permission to do the same and not sort of care so much.
Yeah. Builds a nice environment around you. I mean, my nightmare is to be in a room of people that are like perfect robots. Like I want to be in a room of people who are so real and like one person's got a runny nose, one person's running in late, everyone's just
In their
failing
own
in
little
their
thing.
own little ways. Yeah.
Yeah, nice. Yoga and meditation.
Mm-hmm.
Tried yoga, haven't tried meditation. How have those two, I guess combined really, how have those two improved your life?
Well, I'm going to throw it back to you.
Don't do that. I asked the questions.
What kind of yoga did you do?
There's a mental health charity it's called Sana Days. They do a run club now, but when it first started on the sunny coast, they would just do yoga at Pierce Park in Maroochydore there.
Oh, yeah.
Like every Sunday afternoons, and
Yeah.
we just have a yoga teacher who would just go through poses and breathing and stuff like that. That's what I've done.
Wait, you say you didn't have a teacher?
No, we had a teacher.
Oh, you did. Okay.
Yeah, we had a teacher. We had a yoga instructor that was sort of running it all.
Ah.
So I've done it probably, we did it for a few weekends.
Was it hard for you?
It was very hard at that time. It'd be interesting to just try it now and see how I would be able to not switch off, but just zone in on one thing. Like when I tried it when I was a little bit sort of more all over the place, I could do the exercises, but I was like super like thinking about other things, and then there's that car drove past.
Oh, I got hairy toes.
Fucking hell, a mosquito got me then. And then I'll be like, all right, switch back. I'm trying to do this because of the breathing, and then my shirt would come overhead. I'm like, I can't breathe here.
Do you know what? That's totally all part of yoga.
So I've heard that that's okay. The important thing is being able to switch back. Is that what it is?
Just, keep coming back.
Yeah, keep coming back.
Keep coming back.
Yeah.
There's just so many juicy parts of yoga that like get me really excited. Okay, ready?
Yeah.
Strap in. No, well, I mean, there's the side of it that's the realistic. You're a human wearing clothes in a studio with distractions or whatever, you're outdoors with distractions. And there's the humanness of you that recognizes, there's an ingrown hair. I want to pop it. And then like see a red car drive past and you're like, that reminds me, I've got to see my aunt next week. She's got a red car. And like your brain just goes into a million miles an hour, especially if you're like us, monkey mind. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. Like people are always surprised that someone like me can meditate because I'm like you. A million thoughts at once, 18 different trains in my head as like different thoughts going all different directions, bumping into each other, making no sense. And I think that's one of the most important parts for me to not burn out, as I've realized in the last few weeks and months, is if I can come back to my yoga and or meditation practice, I save the rest of myself, the rest of my days or the rest of my weeks. So what I mean by that is if I do a day that has like 2 or 3 hours of training, an hour or two of surfing, 4 or 5 hours of studying, if I just go to bed and then wake up and do it the next day and then repeat that for a whole week, I'm frazzled.
Fried,
And I go to write an assignment and I'm not making sense. So I go to talk to a friend or appear in a podcast and I'm not making sense and my brain's a bit frazzled. Versus if I do the carbon copy of that week again, but insert 5 minutes of breathing in the morning, 10, 20 minutes of stretching, yoga, meditation in the afternoon. It doesn't sound like much, but it's a way to regulate my nervous system, but also to regulate my brain system and rewire things to a less chaotic space. And I actually think, so everyone thinks that, I think it's a really big misconception that the more chaotic your brain is, the more ADHD you might be, or the less time you have, you shouldn't or you couldn't practice yoga or meditation, but that's the sort of person that would really benefit from it, and you would actually kind of get more time out of the day because you get more brain space.
You're more productive and that sort of thing.
Yeah, more productive, but also you've got so much to work with. Like if you can imagine your brain's got like say 8 different trains and they're going all different directions. And one of them's like thinking about your to-do list, one of them's thinking about your ex-boyfriend, one of them's thinking about the conversation you had last week and you're embarrassed that you said this thing to somebody, and another one's thinking about next week. Yeah, everyone does. Well, most people do. But if the way I like to see my meditation is that like I'll start my meditation, this was me this morning actually, and my brain's got all those different things going. There's also a song going in the background, my favourite song at the moment.
Background in your head or background actually?
No, in my brain.
Your brain?
Don't you have that?
A background song?
Always.
What?
Always.
Yeah, it's WAP.
It can be.
No, it's not WAP.
And that'll just be humming in the background. And so I'll try to turn down the channel that's the music, and then I'll turn down the channel that's the judgmental side of what I said last week, then I'll turn down the channel and I have more to work with, as opposed to someone who has a neurotypical brain who's just got one stream of thought at a time.
Yeah.
They just can tap in and breathe and sit there and breathe.
So for you, it's learning to tone down.
Yeah, and sometimes toning off. Like I can say, all right, that one's irrelevant. Like we don't have to think about the ex-boyfriend. He's not here. That's not there. And then what I find is the deepest thought that really struggles to go away, aside from the song, because songs are so catchy, the deepest thought or conversation that keeps going in my head and keeps going in my head are usually the self-judgmental ones. They're the hardest ones to get rid of. And I have to come back to saying, I am not this thought. And then I'll take a breath. And then I'll say, I'm not this thought. And I'll keep doing that. And all of a sudden, sometimes I'll get full of so much joy that I feel that I'm in this meditative state. And I could get like a tear coming out of my eye.
Really?
Because I'm like, I did it. But then I say to myself, oh, but then that's the ego. If I'm celebrating that I did it, fuck, that's the ego. And then I think I've done it wrong. And then I'm back to judging myself again. And then I have to be, I'm not this thought. I am not this thought.
Right.
But it's a really fun adventure.
It's a journey, isn't it? Like,
it's a journey.
Yeah. You got to fall in love with that process, because you obviously weren't like that at the beginning.
No. So when I first taught yoga, it was very much, I came from a strong ballet background. So for me, it was so physical. And in my head, there was like two reasons why I did yoga. One was to get more flexible, and the other one was to get better balance and maybe a more quote unquote toned body. Okay. And I've come so far from there to realize that it's actually 0% of it is about that. It's so much more to do with how you find peace within your body and your mind, and you're able to harness or cultivate presence in your mind and in your space around you, and being really present on your mat can translate to being really, really present in your day-to-day life, which affects things like conversation. So your communication with maybe your colleagues or your friends or your partner, and that can translate to business opportunities or to growing your social circle and to feeling mentally and socially connected, which comes back to your mental health. Like it's all these
all connected just by being
loops.
Present.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's probably been one of the things that I've focused so much on the last couple of years is, like you said, my brain wanders. Like I'll be out talking to someone and I'm like, they'll say something and I'm like, that's a fucking good question for a podcast. And then I sort of alt in and I'm like, and then halfway through he's like, what do you reckon? And I'm like, what do I reckon about what? He's just like, this whole thing. And I'm like, oh fuck, sorry. Like that used to be me so much. Yeah. And now it's like, I really put so much effort and time to be present in every single moment. Like, and sometimes I use sort of external factors, like my dad's been through his route with cancer. So that is like a huge motivator for when I'm with him. Like, because I haven't really spoken about this, but I sort of do this, not weird thing, but I do this thing where when I'm with someone, so I'll do it when I say goodbye to you, I'll do it when I say goodbye to Sophie, I do it whenever I say goodbye to someone. It's like, I'm saying goodbye for the last time. And it sounds like, a bit dark and sad, but I'm like, I really want to be in the present. So when I'm saying goodbye to you, I'm just like, I sort of hold you for a little bit and I'm like, see ya. And I kind of like properly like burn into my memory this moment. This is it. Because like, you never know. And I've had sort of friends pass away and I've had relatives pass away that I'm just like, you never know. You never know. And I want to be, if that's going to be the last time, I want to remember it and not sort of be half thinking about something else and half in the past or in the future about whatever. I really want to be present. What are you laughing at? This
is just so, it's like crazy that I'm smiling at such a morbid conversation, but I actually read about this recently in a book called Reasons Not to Worry by Robert Delaney, I think. Oh, no, it's a female, Bridget Delaney. And all my life I've done the same thing as you.
Oh, right.
And it kind of like, it excites me because people that I've spoken to about this have been like, you should get that checked. Like almost like it's a rash on your soul. Like, why do you do that?
And cream for that.
Yeah. So this book talks about, it's about stoicism.
Love it.
And how misunderstood today's society has taken stoicism and misrepresented it. And so she writes about her experience with highs and lows of life, and then understanding the stoic way is to be mediocre all the time, but not in a negative way, just to not feel the crash and burn. And then she also talks about this thing called negative visualization.
Yep.
And I read this chapter and had I was sitting at the bluff at Alex watching the surf.
Beautiful.
Normally I would read a sentence and then watch 5 waves, and then read a sentence and then watch 5 waves. And this chapter had me hooked in for the whole chapter. And because I saw myself in the words of the page, and it was saying that this practice called negative visualization is exactly what you said. So you treat your relationships with so much joy and presence as if that's the last time you're going to see them, because you never know if it is. But then also it helps the grieving process, because you're less likely to grieve that person as harshly, because you actually did treat them like every time was the last time with them.
It's
and
funny
you got the most out of it.
That's exactly, I couldn't put into words how you describe it. That's exactly how I feel. And it sounds bad, but like if they did go, I feel reassurance that I'm like, well, there was never a what if.
Yeah.
Like there was never like, I wish I said this. I wish I said I love you again. Like I'll
ask all the questions.
I'll ask all the questions. I'll make sure that I say I love you. I love you, Dad. I love you, Mum. I love you, friend, whatever. And I make sure that like I say it, and it will, I'm always going to feel that grief, but I'm like, oh, at least I was present. I enjoyed that moment. Oh shit. And I said that, and there'll be no like, oh, I wish I said this before they went. So that always, it's a weird thing that I've started doing probably a year ago.
Yeah.
That
Well, you're
I'll
a
do
stoic.
it now. Yeah.
Certified stoic.
Yeah, and it's something because I just never want to be like, oh fuck, I didn't know that. And you never know. You never know when you're going to hug someone for the last time.
Yeah.
So I never wanted to look back and say that what if. I wish I said this. So I always say it.
Yeah. It's beautiful. You get the most out of people, and it is so sad when someone does lose their family member and they're like, oh fuck, I didn't ask this, or I was so angry and resentful of my mum all the time because of XYZ, and then they lose them. So it's a nice reminder, like whether it's reading that book or listening to this podcast, like to really embrace that person, whether it's a friend. Even I get this like sickening feeling, and I don't know if it's because I feel for my dad, because my dad had a really tough upbringing with, like, if I had an ostracized upbringing, he was, 30 years before me.
How rough it would have been
Little
then.
Mauritian kid, he didn't speak much English, and living in the Sutherland Shire of all places. And so now when I see anyone that's like Indian or of Asian or anything like Mauritian descent, if they're like stumbling across the road, or if they're dancing in a group of friends but everyone's dancing without them, like my whole soul is like crying for them to be accepted, or to be happy, or to not fall over, or
relieve
like whatever
their struggle. If they've got anything, you're just like, I can only imagine what they're sort of going through. And you can sort of like empathize with them. You're just like, nah, I'm helping you out here.
Yeah. And so my interactions with like my university lecturers who might struggle to speak English, or not be like, cool or whatever, like the other university lecturers, I always feel the need to go out of my way and make them feel like really welcome.
Yeah, because that's what a lot of white Australians think, that like, I'm probably going to get cancelled here, but you know what I mean? Like,
aren't you a white Australian?
Yeah, well, not really. My mum's brown, but but like I've grown up here, and it's just like, if you don't speak English,
that's the culture
imagine
here.
you going to another country that don't speak English, and then you speak English, and then everyone's making fun of you. You'd be like, "Oh, what's going on here? How mean's this?" You're like, "Well,
that's exactly what you do.
Exactly what happens here." Like,
I'm glad we are growing out of it.
Yeah.
Which is beautiful that you did say, like, cancel culture. It is good that people are getting on people's case about it and making people accountable for their maybe racial or like sexist or whatever comments. Like, it's nice to know that as a community or as a society where they're sticking out for the other guys. But it's taking a long time.
It is taking a long time. It's the dinosaurs that are dying that are like holding us back.
I was so confused for a hot second. What dinosaurs?
The dinosaur old people that are holding us back a little bit. But moving on, drinks break. Something that you actually mentioned at some point then, might have been a little bit ago, was regulating your emotions. That's sort of what meditation and yoga sort of really, really helped you with. And how I got to know you before meeting you was I read that book, Keep Swimming.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so Annalise was obviously a guest on here, and she gave me that book, and so I started reading through it, and I was like, oh, actually, I think I recognise you, and sort of read your story and being misdiagnosed with bipolar, and I'm actually going through stages right now to be, I guess, diagnosed with bipolar or be on the spectrum at least. I think what I've realised at the appointments that I have with the psychiatrist is that I really thought it was bad. I was I was super worried that I was like, I've got personality, so I've got something, because I feel like my highs are so high and my lows are just so low, and I have to ride with it. I didn't feel like I could get out of it. I just had to just roller coaster it.
Yeah.
And then after the sort of conversations I've had, my highs are normal, but my lows are just a little bit lower than normal.
Okay.
And he's like, look, you don't need to go on, medication or like that. Go do a 10-day
Vipassana.
a 10-day bipolar course at the hospital, Budrum.
I didn't know we had that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he's like, when you go there, you'll realise like you'll be on this end of the spectrum, and you'll trust me. This whole course is people on the whole, so you'll realise how not so bad that you are.
Yeah.
And I realised I was not so bad at all.
Okay.
But talk me through that period.
Did you go?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but it was because I work away in the mine, so I could only do a couple of sessions. And then they're like, yeah, we can't just hold it for you. And I was like, oh shit, all right then. But damn. Yeah. But it really put in perspective, like, gave me some sort of reassurance that it's just like, Elliot, like there is case for it, but you're sort of like internalizing a lot of it and building up to be something that it's not as bad as you think it is. And when he put it in sort of terms, I was just like, just gave me all the symptoms and stuff, and I was like, oh yeah, right, okay then. And he's like, just gave me little tips of managing when I'm in a low, and like recognizing you're in a low, and don't try to like fight it almost. I always try to fight it, and then I make things worse, and I get angry at myself, and people around me think I'm angry at them. I'm like, I'm not angry at you, I'm angry at me.
Yeah.
And it just sort of spiral a little bit. So now I'm a bit more loving towards myself and a bit more accepting towards myself.
Oh.
Yeah, thank you.
I love that.
Can you talk to me through that period of your life and how challenging it was, or how difficult it was?
Yeah, it was. I believed so hard that there must have been something so wrong with me. There was definitely a lot of factors involved. Like, I wasn't used to hormones. I was really late to blossom in terms of puberty, and so that hit me like a ton of bricks. And nutritionally, I was just living off of super refined carbohydrates, because being a dancer, you get brought up on, you have to have like lollies ready to go before you go on stage, because you don't want to have like a meal, because then you'll be bloated. And it was all about the way you look and having enough, but also having enough energy to dance and shimmy your fingers.
So just be little red frogs all the time.
Literally,
right.
killer pythons, red frogs. And then for me, being like I have like an addictive palate, I guess you would say. So all I could stomach was just sweet food and chocolate, and so the sugar highs were definitely contributing to the highs. And then obviously a low glycemic index, a low blood sugar would make me crash and burn. And then the same thing as you were saying, like, it was just a simple like hunger. I was just hungry. I was just low blood sugar, but also knowing that there was mood swings coming into it, and there was struggles in my relationships, and like very undiagnosed ADHD going on, that I just thought that the conversation in my mind was, this is 10 times worse than what it is, and you're not going to come out of this low, and that just manifested worse and worse and worse as the year went on. Got the misdiagnosis, then started taking nutrition seriously, and almost ate my way out of the diagnosis. And then it wasn't until years later that it would have been almost a decade later, just less than, when I was going through the last bits and pieces before the Survivor started, and we had to have a chat with a psychiatrist. And the psychiatrist said to me, is there anything in your life, that you need to bring up? And there was a form as well that you filled in. I think on the form I had just ticked bipolar disorder, even though I had done nothing about this diagnosis, and sort of shoved it under the rug because I didn't really believe it and was a bit confused by it all, and I didn't really feel what I used to feel. And she put me on the phone. She paused me actually and called up another psychiatrist, if I can remember correctly. And it was like a conference Zoom of these doctor people. And he said, oh, this is the categories. Did you ever meet this as the bare minimum? And I said, oh, no. What about this? Oh, no. And he's like, I'm just going to officially undiagnose you.
I'm going to untick that.
Yeah. And so I just wiped that off. It was almost like it was written on a whiteboard, and I just took my elbow across it. Done, gone. That's not part of who I am anymore. But
how did that feel?
Quite relieving.
Yeah,
but in the same conversation, something came up that I had suppressed from my Thailand trip that kind of borderline could have almost killed me. but also was something that unfortunately every girl seems to go through in terms of abuse. And I had literally forgotten. Like, not even just, I know that thought's there and I just pretend like it's not. I'm talking complete, like, amnesia. Forgot until she asked me this triggering question, and I just was like, no, oh. She said, has this ever happened to you? And then it came out of nowhere, like this, like a semi-trailer that you didn't know was behind you just ran over me. And I was like, whoa, yeah. And then I explained her the story, and I just sat there bawling my eyes out, not because of the story, but because of how the conversation I had after what had happened. So this event happened to me, and the first thing I did was call my basically I was like drugged before this whole thing happened. And when I came
Do
to...
I want to ask this? Or no,
That's the most I'll give you there. It's
Okay.
like I came to when bad things were happening, and I had a scooter, and I found all my things, got my things together, and drugged out of my mind, I had to find my way home on this scooter. But I remember thinking I would rather die on this motorbike in the middle of, not this motorbike, it was a scooter, in the middle of Thailand traffic than stay in that situation that I had just found myself in. And I called my best friend when I got back. She was a best friend just from Thailand, not my Australian best friend. And I told her what happened. And she said, oh, it's happened to everyone. That's like a rite of passage here. Don't even worry about it. And made it out like, yeah, that's just a Wednesday. You can forget that. And I at that time must have swallowed it, got up the next day, taught yoga and just went on with my life like everything was normal, and wiped it from my memory until years later.
For what, 10 years
I think it was maybe seven-ish years that I had completely forgotten about it.
Yeah.
And then this call, it brought it up, and I'm very glad, part of me is very glad that I didn't wear it as identity, like it didn't become me at all. But part of me was like, how the hell did one person's comment made me just think that didn't happen at all?
Like normal. But then also one person's question just unleashed it all.
Brought it
all back.
Yeah.
Was that part of the healing journey for you in terms of that experience?
I guess, well, I wonder, I always think like, if she never asked me that question, I would have nothing to heal from, because I wouldn't remember that it happened. But maybe it would have come up in
later in life or something.
But it gave me something to work on. It definitely gave me a nice platform to jump from in terms of learning about self-discovery and identity, and also having so much more sympathy for people that go through the same thing.
Those sorts of things, yeah. You've done it again to me.
Sorry.
Just go through these fucking questions. You've done that one. Alrighty. Normally it flows better than this, Sophie.
Do you know what's so funny? Normally I'm like, I actually forgot that we were recording a podcast for a second, and my brain just we had like a moment of silence, and my brain remembered that we were recording a podcast, and I fully just had a moment of what's it called?
Imposter syndrome.
Imposter syndrome. I was like, what? Why is he asking me a question? Why do you want to know about my life?
Why are we here?
How did we get here?
This isn't my living room. I think a lot of people see you on social media, and they I think sometimes they automatically assume, like, they look at you and super healthy, super educated, and this lifestyle, came easy for you. But what's been the journey? So you just, you got your diagnosis, it was mixed diagnosis, and then you really looked into your nutrition. How was that journey like, I guess, becoming more healthy in terms of the food you're eating? I guess, was it whole foods? And did you have any setbacks? And how was that journey to get you where you are now?
I think the setbacks that came along with it was my own, when you're in your mid-20s, you just think that what you know is the be-all, end-all. You just think you're so right. And so I think I got in my own way a lot of the times, thinking, all right, like hardcore raw vegan is the only way forward. And it took a lot of cracking down of the ego and being like, you're allowed to be wrong, read outside of your own echo chamber, stop only following raw vegans and read the real science. And so there was probably like 5 or 6 years of just following whatever I heard online in my own echo chamber.
It's like following those trends. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. And then being genetically who I am, probably whatever I ate would look okay on my body, because I dance a lot, I train a lot. And if you look at my dad, he's quite athletic. My mum's side of the family is just like sort of average. So I think that like I have to admit that there's a bit of genetic luck in the mix, but also the fact that I do so much exercise.
You just burn it all off.
You burn it all off, yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm glad though that my main goal nowadays is longevity, because it means that whatever I'm putting in my body, sure, it's doing some short-term benefits, but I'm wanting to avoid things like dementia, Alzheimer's, the top cancers, cardiovascular disease, all those things. But coming back to the lessons that I learned, I think that there was a few times when I was embarrassed. Like I used to, for the first year of being vegan, I was such a fake vegan.
A fake vegan.
Fake vegan. I would buy dairy milk, chocolate, and sit in my cupboard at home. Like I was renting in Bondi, I'm pretty sure at the time, and I just have memories of like sneaking my groceries into my room and just to smash a whole block of chocolate. But then online be like, dairy is so bad.
Yeah, you shouldn't have it.
No, and
vegan for life.
Yeah.
How good's dairy milk though?
And it took me. I remember I
wow.
had to wean myself off chocolate, and there's just a really addictive quality in casein, which is part of milk.
Yeah.
And
I'm going to ask you a question about all your scientific knowledge around food and stuff.
really?
Like that.
Okay. And then the next few stepping stones were just learning to read scientifically, and then finally going to uni and relearning again how to read scientifically, and realizing that quote unquote research doesn't just mean Googling or following people on YouTube or Instagram.
So was that the motivation to go to uni?
Kind of, yeah. So my biggest motivating factor at the start of it all was losing my grandpa to dementia, and then my grandma started getting Alzheimer's.
Sorry, I'm a bit uneducated.
The difference
Yeah,
between the two?
The difference,
yeah. Dementia's usually, it's more of a broader term, and it's people that start to lose their memory, but it comes on from a disease. So my grandpa had a quadruple bypass, crazy heart surgery basically, and he was fine going into it, and as soon as he started recovering, he was losing his memory and went downhill quickly. So that's more dementia. It's brought on by being put in hospital for something, or a major infection, or major stress incident. Yeah. Whereas Alzheimer's just slowly starts to happen. It can happen over like 30, 40 years. It can happen really, really slowly. And it peels away. It's almost like your brain is an onion, and it peels away at the layers slowly from the outside in. And from the outside, you sort of have it's a metaphor, but from the outside, you have like your most recent memories. So you start to forget where your keys are, and you start to forget, someone's name or things like that, which don't freak out because we all do that anyway. But it happens really, really frequently. And then it starts to become decade by decade. You start to lose decades worth of memories, and then it comes to the point when you can only remember being a child, and you go back to being a bit of a child. So my grandma in her last few weeks, she's looking at photos of her husband, late husband. Who's that man? Why am I hugging him in that photo? And we're like, oh, you're married to him for like 65 years. My dad walked in, and she's like, oh, my doctor's here. And that was really hard.
That's interesting, because my grandfather just passed away from dementia, and mum was like, the last time we all saw him, we were all like, all me and my brothers, we would have been like 10, 12, 15 or something. And then mum's like, Fletch, our youngest, he's got a kid. And he's like, grandpa's like, he's got a kid? Isn't he like 10? Mum's like, nah, he's 25 now. Like, you
just got to learn to laugh at that, because there's nothing you can do.
There's nothing you can do. And like dad, he was in a home, my grandpa was in a home, and he was getting all the meals you get in sort of those sort of aged care facilities. And my dad was like, nah, fuck this. Like, so he'll go down the road and get him KFC. And my grandpa was like, all I want is a bit of KFC. That's all I want. And he would forget that he said that. So the next day, Dad would come in and with KFC, and he'd be like, how'd you know that I wanted KFC? And Dad's like, I can read minds. And he's just like, nah, he said it yesterday, dickhead.
That's like my grandma. Every time I'd visit her, first time she spanked my arms because of the tattoos.
Oh, so not a fan.
Oh, so then the second time I said, I've been to art class, and everyone was practicing on me. It's not real. Yeah. And then the next time was, it's stickers. And the next time was, just try different stories.
Can I say here? So what do you reckon is the biggest impact on your health?
My education. Well, my grandparents. Oh, right. Watching them deteriorate, and sort of being told that if they had cardiovascular disease and dementia or Alzheimer's, then I would have those things too. And then diving into, I read this book called How Not to Die, And it was such a good insight to all the nutrition sciences and where things are at.
So,
Have you heard of it?
say? Like,
How not to die.
don't go to Canada with
Stop moving countries for boys.
No, I haven't. What's it?
It's like it summarizes the top, like I think 13 or 15 killers in terms of things like different types of cancer, suicide. I'm pretty sure dementia is in there, but it talks about nutritionally what you would do to essentially upregulate your chances of survival against those things. So, for example, for breast cancer, they found that alcohol was contributing heaps to switching on those genes for breast cancer.
I don't drink anymore.
Nice.
Giving it up.
Nice. Yeah, I didn't give it up. I just forgot that it existed.
Yeah, well, same with me actually. It went from giving up to like I don't even
How do people drink?
think about it.
Yeah.
I wish I'd done it earlier. I really do. I was never a big drinker, but the rugby culture, you know what it's
Yeah, totally.
you know what it's
But
like.
still, in your 30s, not drinking is massive. Like it's.
I love it. I actually love it. I went to a wedding on Saturday. And I almost like to rub it in a little bit.
Sorry, guys, I'm sober.
Do you want a beer at the bars, open bar? Like, do you want a beer? I was like, just a glass of water. And everyone's like looking at me, and I'm like, yeah, it's almost been a year. So just letting everyone know.
Did you give a speech about it? Or?
I didn't give a speech, but I let people automatically assume I've been to rehab or something.
Oh, really?
They just assume, they're just like, oh, shit. Sorry about that. And I'm like, yeah, you should be sorry about that.
It was a big pivotal moment in my life.
Yeah.
Did you just wake up one day and you were like, no more?
I've been toying with the idea. Spoke to Andy about it. You know, he had a problem with it, but he gave it up. And I'm like, fuck, I would love to have that discipline and that self-love just to be like, no, I love who I am. I love my body. I know this isn't good for me. Why do I keep doing it? It's a nasty habit. I don't like it, but why do I keep doing it? Am I doing it to fit in? Am I doing it to like, you know, is it just a nasty habit that you're out with people? You just need something in your hand.
Totally. For most people, that's where it starts.
Yeah,
right?
and I'm just like, I'm all big on, like you said before, like growing. I always want to get better every day. I'm like, how can I improve this a little bit? And having that discipline, and I believe like having that discipline is just like such self-love. And I care about what's going in my body and feeling good. And I was just like, you know what? Fuck it. Like, I'm just going to... Last drink I had was we had a Blink-182 concert in Brisbane. It's like last year.
Nice.
And I was like, this is my last bit. And I even drinking then, I was just like... I had the best time, but even having a drink then, I was like...
Why am I doing this?
Why am I fucking doing this?
Yeah.
You know, and it hasn't... You know, it sounds, you know, cocky or something, but it's been the easiest thing.
Oh, wow.
Hasn't
that's
been
great.
challenging at all. I haven't craved it. I've gone out. I haven't.
I think naturally you're quite a social person, so for your personality, maybe it's a bit easier.
Well, like I said before, social anxiety was huge for me.
Okay.
Massive. I needed a drink, or I thought I needed a drink to be comfortable chatting to people or having something to say. Well, what I've realised is my coping mechanism for my social anxiety was chatting to people. So if I would, before a party, before an event, before going out, I would be like, fuck, like, what am I going to say to people? Oh, shit. Like, I'll be so in my own head. And for me, coping with it, my coping mechanism was just chatting to someone. So if I chatted to someone, it would take my mind off
the social anxiety.
Off the social anxiety. I'll be outside my head and I'll just be like chatting to someone, listening to what they're saying, replying. And over years and years and years of doing that, I'm like, oh, so like my coping thing is just chatting to people. And now I love chatting to people. But now I think the love of it was just a defense mechanism or coping mechanism just to like get out of my own head of just chatting to people. Now
it's really helpful.
It's really helpful. But my mates take the shit out of me all the time because they're just like, I go up and order, you know, food at the bar or the restaurant or something, and I'll be there for like 20 minutes
talking to the waitress.
And my mates are like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "Oh, he goes to the gym or two, or he goes to like he's lived here and like I lived in Canada for a little bit," and it's just like, and my mates are like, "What is wrong with you?" And
that's
I'm
awesome.
Like,
that's a good skill.
It is. So that's been sort of my coping mechanism. Sorry, can we just circle back to how you decided to be biomedical student?
Biomed. Yes. Okay. So, wow, that was a big roundabout conversation. Me and all my personalities were reading the nutrition science books. Oh, that's right. How Not to Die. That was the book that I was reading. And then I was living in Canada and I was like, I'm going to sign up to nutrition at the whatever university it was called. It was in BC somewhere. And I started applying for this uni and then I got called up for this job in Indonesia, where I was like recording this big yoga program. So I had to make this decision: do I stay in Canada, pursue film/stunt/study nutrition, or do I go to Indo and probably just go back home? And so next thing I was packing my bags up and left Canada, went to Indo, made my way home eventually, and my dad was renovating this house in Majimba up here on the Sunny Coast.
Beautiful.
And I was like, I'll come help. And I went on, my dad left for like a day, and I went on a Hinge date because I was bored with my own brain. And this guy was studying biomed at USC up here on the Sunny Coast, and he was chatting to me, and I said, I really want to do nutrition. I was going to do it in Canada, maybe I'll do it here. And then we got chatting deeper and deeper, and he's like, you know, like you've got a very scientific brain. And I was like, oh, what do you mean? He's like, you've retained so much from these books that you've read. Why don't you do like the preparation pathway course? So you could branch off and do nutrition, or you could do biomed. So I was like, okay, I'll do that. So I did this course, and at school, science was one of my worst subjects down there with English. And I got 99 in chemistry, 99 in biology, 95 in statistics, and then like 60% in essay writing because of English. My teachers pulled me aside and they were like, what are you doing? Like, don't do nutrition. You could do biomed, you could do pre-med. Like, what do you want to do? So I had a quick look on like the internet. What can you do with biomed and which way can I go? And I just decided even if I wanted to do nutrition, I could do my master's in nutrition after, which is sort of the way that I'm heading. But yeah, now here I am, fast forward 5 years later, and I've sort of done a mix of part-time and full-time, and I'm in my final semester of biomed.
And what's the plan afterwards?
So I'm in the middle of preparing at the moment research masters based on, I want to do like a dietary intervention with people with PTSD and measure so basically do a high fiber group and then a low fiber group, and then have a little washout period and swap them over so everyone gets to be like their own control to see their measures in PTSD.
The results from this.
Yeah, well, hold on for 2 years.
That's crazy. So a question that I'd love to ask you, has there ever been a time that you noticed your mental health was really declining?
Honestly, I think like the worst of mine has been when I've been in slightly toxic relationships and let someone else do my speaking for me. I think the worst time, I don't know about the worst time, but one of the most prominent times in my mind was a couple of years ago. I was in this relationship and my best friend called me up and said, I think someone has put out your light. And then another friend said, you're just not shining as bright as usual. And everyone in my life kept using the same analogies, like my light had been put out. And I was basically like allowing someone to tell me how to dress, how to feel, all those things. And it was a bit of a, what do you call it when you're controlling? Like it was a controlling relationship.
And it's so hard to see it when you're in it too, isn't it?
Especially when you love that person and you idolize how you look together and you idolize how other people speak about you and your relationship. How you
view it is so different to how people on the outside view it.
Yeah.
And it's I've been in situations too, and it's just like, what do you mean?
And then it's perfect.
Exactly.
Yeah. So realizing that I hadn't actually I wasn't enjoying anything that I normally enjoyed, wasn't sleeping very well, was not passionate about everything. I was just I had my arms up, my eyes closed like a zombie, just moving through life, and realized I wasn't going anywhere with any passion. I had no trajectory. And I think the thing that made me pick my socks back up was actually my family. Like I love seeing my parents really happy. And I love the way that like if our neighbours come over, they're like, Shayelle this and Shayelle that, and she's amazing. And there was not much to talk about me because I wasn't doing anything. I wasn't passionate. And I wanted them to be stoked for their daughter again. And so that was the first thing that made me pull my socks up.
Almost snap you out of it a little bit. Yeah.
And the more that made me get into my meditation more and my yoga more, because I knew that I know when I'm down because I stopped practicing meditation and yoga, because it's such a big mirror to how you're actually feeling. It's like it opens up your chest cavity and makes you stare down into your own heart and ask yourself the deepest questions just by sitting in silence. And I was so scared of sitting in silence because I knew my brain would be like, break up with that guy and be happy and like do the things that make you happy and do the hard work that you don't want to do.
The truths that you don't want to hear.
Yeah. It was so much easier for me to just like get some takeaway food and watch Netflix for 4 hours instead of do the hard work that I knew would bring me back to me.
But it's the most confronting, hardest thing, isn't it?
But then you look back, once you do the hard work, you look back and you're like, thank God. Like I've grown so much from there. And now when I do hit a bump and I do get low, I've got that set of tools in my pocket to move forward.
100%.
You know?
I wouldn't be the person I am, or I definitely wouldn't have the podcast if I didn't confront those feelings and thoughts and do the hard work on myself. I just know I wouldn't be so proud of myself, and I wouldn't be, the son that I'm proud of. Like, I never thought of making sort of my parents proud of me. You know, because as a parent, like, not as a parent, but your mum, like mum and dad would always be proud of you no matter what.
Yeah.
And I've never thought about like actually putting in effort and going, oh wait, I'm proud of who I am, and I'm proud that I'm making them proud too. And I'd always like just procrastinate on going deep. I'll be like, no, I'll do it tomorrow. Or
Everyone does.
Oh, and
it's scary.
It is scary. It is.
Yeah.
It's the scariest thing I've ever done, but it's hands down the best thing that I've ever done.
Yeah.
Because I wouldn't be the person I am today if I didn't.
Do you do ice baths?
I've got an ice bath.
Oh, I'm so jealous. Actually, I have one too. It's just lost a leg, so it collapses on itself.
No, well, I've got an actual
Oh, hardcore.
Yeah,
Oh, I'm
yeah.
very jealous.
plunge. It's a proper plunge with a chiller and a sauna and stuff. So,
All right. Subtle flex. I'm so jealous.
I'm pretty proud of that too, actually.
Yeah, that's a flex.
They're the little things. I talked about sort of getting up alcohol, but they're just these things that I'm like, all right, prioritize who I am, my health now, because in my 20s I just didn't care about my body. I think I was saying before, like I haven't felt this good since I was in primary school. No, body wise, like I'd always be broken. I'd always be injured. I'd always be sore. But still playing footy and then recovery, I would always go out drinking. I'd always get on the drugs or something, and then I'd wake up the next Sunday and then do no recovery. Then it was just a cycle for 10 years. Like
Our bodies cop it.
And
mine.
then I was just like, nah, no more of that. Like, and this is the best I've ever felt. Like I'm prioritizing those things like saunas and cold plunges, but also like who am I spending my time with, and the foods am I eating, and then the connections I have with people, and even like being by myself and being my own best friend, like exploring new things and realizing I actually am a pretty creative person. I've got a really, what I've realized that I've got a really vivid imagination.
Hey.
Like big time. Like I can, if I'm waiting at a receptionist, I'm waiting at the airport, if I'm waiting, I don't need my phone. I can honestly the noise cancellation headphones on and just close my eyes, and I'm my own little world.
Yeah.
And I love that about me.
Yeah. That's beautiful. That's a skill.
Yeah, it is.
You know that they say, they being science, say that the number one way to mitigate the potential onset of burnout is connection. And I looked a bit deeper into it, and it's connection on 3 levels, like connection with yourself, so meditating or zoning out or having just you time. For me at the moment, that's Sudoku. And then connection with others, but like real genuine connection. And like you said, picking the right people that don't drain your energy, but you're on the same wavelength and you give and share, and it's beautiful. And then the third one is connection with like the world around you, so nature, and just getting outside, and even ice bath, sauna, like you're just in an element where you're connecting with like that heat or that cold or that feeling, and you're so present.
Dog walks.
So there you go.
Every morning on the beach. Half an hour.
What dog do you have?
I have a cross of a wolfhound and a stump-tailed cattle dog. But
I don't know either of those 2 dogs.
You don't? Wolfhound. But it got desexed before her first period, so she stunned her growth. So she is a miniature wolfhound. So wolfhounds are normally massive. She's that big.
Cute.
Lost her bark, doesn't have a bark because of hormone. Yeah. Wolf. So that's her. But that's like the morning routines. Like when I'm back from work, I'm so routine focused. Like I need, timings when I wake up.
I'm like that.
Yeah, I need it.
Otherwise I'll do nothing.
Yeah, I love ticking things off. Like just been like, yep, done that today.
Yes.
That. And at the end of the day, I'm like, I was so productive today.
Me too. It's the biggest mental pat on the back.
Yeah, it is.
Even sometimes I'll write like wake up. Like I actually wake up, tick.
Tick.
Write a to-do list.
That's a bit
tick.
extreme.
Hey.
Although,
Anything
like,
for dopamine.
Live. Yeah.
Yes, breathe.
I'm alive. Your motivation on going on Survivor?
Just the mental side of it looked challenging.
Yeah.
And the challenges physically look fun.
Did they?
Oh yeah.
Was there prize money for it?
$500,000.
$500,000?
And I came second.
Did you get second prize money?
0.
Oh.
Do you have a spare $500,000 for me?
250 or something?
No.
Oh, crazy. So I've watched, as we sort of mentioned at the start of the show, I've watched my fair share of reality TV,
Oh, yeah.
unfortunately. And, it's pretty obvious that to get views, to get likes, to get people interested, there needs to be some sort of drama, negativity. How challenging was that experience overall, and particularly on your mental health when it's, especially with Survivor, it's all mind games, it's all strategies, it's a bit of not blackmail, but stabbing in your back. It's
backstabbing.
I had it there.
Somewhere.
Yeah.
Honestly, that was the worst. That was the worst part. Like, I didn't mind the starvation, sleeping on the ground, spiders, snakes, the heat. I didn't mind any of it.
What country was it in?
Australia. Have you heard of it?
What? No, don't they go to Fiji or something?
COVID.
COVID times.
Yeah, so there was like two seasons in the outback. So we're in Charters Towers up near
Townsville and stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
And everything was fine. I loved the challenges, loved whatever. But the mental side of it was so harsh. Like, you'd be chatting to someone and you're having so much fun bantering back and forth, you're connecting about the outside world and everything. And then your brain goes, oh, are they just playing me? It's fake.
Yeah.
What's real?
Yeah.
And then they turn around and they bitch about you, and it brought back all of my high school, primary school trauma of being left out. And it just really hurt mentally. I would luckily be able to tuck away into this little corner and just meditate. And some days I would do like a half an hour meditation, an hour of yoga, swim in the river, go for another half an hour meditation. And that was the only way I could shed the fuckery from my brain, because you could just feel the pain on your heart. Like, it was so horrible. I was really bullied out there.
Were you?
Yeah.
Do you look back on it and go, I'm happy I did it?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you do, yeah.
Another one of those failure things.
Yeah, oh, yeah, of course. Yeah.
For sure. I'm so glad I did it. I'm so glad everything I did, I don't regret it. Some people say to me I should have gloated more because I could have won the $500,000, because I had to basically present.
Why would gloating?
Well, because the people that you vote off are the people that are voting for who wins. And so the last 10 people that survive the game are there as the jury, and they're the only 10 votes that you can get to possibly win the game.
Oh, right.
And so it was me and this other guy and another girl as the final 3. And this guy's an ex-SS soldier, and he's like, I did this, and then when you guys did that, I did this, and I lied over here, and I...
Full alpha.
Yeah, and he just pieced together his story so well. Good storyteller. And I sat there and I said, well, I was a bit of an underdog the whole game. I couldn't really pull any big moves. I just sort of had to keep fighting from the bottom, and I just kept dodging votes, and I did this and I did that, but I didn't gloat about how amazing I was, because I was, A, not really the person I am, but B, you're so hungry. Like, your brain can't remember what you just did, let alone a whole 47 days worth of activities. I could not remember. So I just sat there and was kind of humble, and probably too humble is what people said. And so didn't get a single vote.
But I wonder, didn't you?
No.
But I wonder how would you have felt if you pretended to be something that you're not and won?
Yeah, shit.
It would have been shit, wouldn't it?
I mean, it's $500,000 though.
Could be that shit.
I'd pay off my mortgage.
Yeah. I've done worse.
But you know what? I got some pretty good momentum from it in terms of the people that followed me online, and I got so many beautiful messages from people saying my daughter said that when they grow up they want to be strong like Shay, or they want to be honest like Shay, or they want to be vulnerable like you. Those conversations were I know it's for $500,000, but those conversations really made me happy.
Well, you know that you're potentially changing people's lives.
Yeah. Yeah. It felt good. That definitely felt really good.
You're no sellout. I know that. So what does the future look like for you? Is there going to be obviously more retreats? Obviously graduating.
Well, yeah, look like I'm trying to piece together at the moment one final retreat before I jump into my masters, and that will be in December. A little sunny coast, sort of recovery, surf, hiking kind of retreat. Lots of meditation, and then life is pretty much just going to be full on. It's going to be quite different if my master's takes off coming January, but there's a lot of pieces to still happen to get to that point of starting my master's. So really, I don't even know. There's just so many question marks on how it's going to go.
And you're so happy with that.
I love it.
Yeah, you love it. Yeah.
I think life is the best when you know that analogy of the 75 dreams?
No.
I think it's an Alan Watts speech, and he says, imagine you had the power one night to have 75 dreams, 75 years, worth of dreams in one night, and you can make them as perfect as you want. He's like, but after doing that constantly, you'd get bored of everything being perfect, and you would actually ask for your dream to have random things happen to you and failures and things to go wrong and highs and lows, because that's where the joy of life sits.
Yeah.
And I fully agree. Like I'm happy being like, what's going to happen next? Yeah.
Excited.
Yeah.
Yeah, always.
There's always a funny story anyway at the end of it if it goes all to shit.
Always. Yeah, absolutely.
So long as you survive to tell the story.
Yeah, that's all that matters. So I got some quick fire questions.
Okay.
Going by the time that we have, you make them quick.
Okay.
What do you think is your purpose in life?
I think just to spread joy.
Spread joy. What are you most proud of?
Spreading joy.
Spreading joy. Fuck up. That's going to be.
It's my only answer.
What are your 3 non-negotiables for living a healthy and full life?
3 non-negotiables.
Yes, that you need in your life.
Aim for 8 hours of sleep every night. Meditate daily if possible. And eat your veggies.
Eat the veggies.
I actually have that tattooed on me.
What? Eat your veggies?
Yeah.
Show the camera that.
It was really old. That was a 25-year-old Shayelle decision.
Don't regret it one bit. If you could go back to a time in your life, where would you go and why?
If I could go back to a time in my life, back to Survivor finale and gloat.
And gloat. How have you defined success?
Being able to do something that you're passionate about and being able to be fully vulnerably, can you say that for me? Vulnerably yourself and be able to just live a life, still have an income, but be doing something that you're so passionate about that you wake up excited to do it.
Yes, I love that. What's the best piece of advice you have ever received?
Oh my God. That's a really good question. I'm probably going to say recently someone told me to listen to Ram Dass. Do you know Ram Dass? RAM DASS. He's a spiritual guru, died a couple of years ago. His podcast, life-changing.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Last one. What's the most important lesson you've learnt so far?
That it's okay to be wrong. That it's actually, no, it's beneficial to be wrong.
To be wrong.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on. I've had so much fun. It's been a great chatting with you and getting to know you on a personal level. And I admire you so much and can't wait to see you at Rebel sometime.
Hey, right back at you. Thanks for having me. That was fun.
No worries. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much for listening to another episode of Mind Your Head. If you'd like to support the show, be sure to subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you listen to your podcasts. It really supports the show and helps others discover us. Don't forget to join us on Instagram and TikTok at mindyourhead.podcast.